Good morning. Praise the Lord. I am Pastor Michelle, along with Pastor Waylon.
Good morning. Good morning.
We greet you in the name of Jesus. We like to wish Happy Mother's Day to all the mothers.
Yes.
And we pray that your day be blessed. We pray that you spend time with your family. And for those of you that have lost your mothers,
To the ends of the earth. You are a tremendous blessing, and just want to tell you Happy Mother's Day. You are an awesome mother. You're phenomenal in how you manage and you do things, you put things together. You're awesome. You're wonderful. I really appreciate you. I value you highly. Wouldn't trade you for anybody else. And I think sometimes we need to say that. So just know that you are appreciating your love. And like I said in the card that I gave you yesterday, I do see, I do see what you do and how you maneuver for us and do things. I do pay attention to it and appreciate it. So happy Mother's Day to you and to everyone else. We really sincerely hope that you have, like Shelly said, you have taken the time to do something nice, something considerate for another mother. Even if your mother is here, take the time to kind of lift up another mother who may not have the resources or the support system, but they're doing their thing anyway. Make sure you take the time to honor them and say, hey, I see you. Because at the end of the day, when someone acknowledges your effort and your hard work, not that you are, because parenting is never a perfect thing. Hello, good morning. It's never a perfect thing, but when you're putting the time in, you're putting the work in, you're putting in the effort to make it what it needs to be, or to try to make your family move and be the best that they can be, you always want to be acknowledged for your effort. So to God be glory. And let me take care of this time real quick. And congratulations, happy Mother's Day to everybody.
Happy Mother's Day. Yes, it is. It is a pleasure and an honor to bless so many women, or be around so many wonderful women, those that have lost their mothers. My heart goes out to you because I know what it is. But I'm still yet thankful. Yesterday I had an opportunity. I was going down the highway. I was coming to the church the back way as I was preparing for this day. As you can see, we're prepared for our Mother's Day brunch for our beloved mothers. And I saw two little girls sitting in a lawn chair, and they had a little sign, and it was like, we would do anything to work to earn money for my mother, because we don't have any money to buy her anything for Mother's Day. So I stopped, and it pulled on my heartstring, and I gave them each a little bit of change, and I said, go make sure you get your mom something great. And they was like, oh my God, I can't believe you did this. We thank you so much. And they was like, what's your name? Where you from? And I was like, I'm Pastor Michelle. My church is around the corner. I didn't invite them to church, but it's just an honor because there's so many great mothers, and some mothers never get a recognition for being the great moms that they are. And so I just want to take the opportunity and the time to thank everybody for being the wonderful mothers that they are, and that upcoming mothers, because you don't necessarily have to be a mother to be celebrated, because when you're an auntie, because I had some awesome aunties, and it's unfortunate that I lost my auntie during this time, but that was my auntie. She was such a great woman. Every time she saw us when she was out working, you always walked away with something in your hand, a hug, a kiss. She would cook for us. She would be so wonderful to us. So, I didn't understand. I don't understand how you cannot be connected with your family. I love my family. I love everybody. And I'm so excited about today and everybody that's coming to fellowship with us. and you all that are going in fellowship with your families, make sure you take the time to love one another and share the love with one another, because you never know when will be the last time. And you know, I don't want to bring a damper on anything, but you know, sometimes it could be the last time you see a person, and you never know what the circumstances to life will lead to. So you always want to be loving, kind, and gentle towards everyone, and make sure that your life will exemplify the life of Christ.
I remember saying to my wife after her mom passed, I'm so glad we spent all we spent on her birthday, you know, all this. Celebrated days and days at a time. Because now we understand, you know what, how much it was, or how much it meant, and celebrated her in that capacity. Because looking back, not, you know, it being unexpected, us not knowing, I would have had regret. I would have had some regret about not doing everything that she wanted to do, and how she wanted to do it, and having really celebrated her being with us for such a circumstance to take place, and us have not had that. So I was like, man, I'm glad. I'm so glad we did all that we did.
Yes, it's phenomenal. And that's one of the reasons why I tell people, if your mother, your loved one is not around, and you're starting to have that missing and longing feeling, then go sow that to someone else. What you would have done for your parent, go do it for someone else. Because from a psychological standpoint, that's a form of therapy. That's a form of healing. You're remembering your loved one by giving to others. It's a lot of the same reasons why people start foundations and scholarships in the name of their loved one, because they want to do something to honor their life and what they've done. It doesn't always have to be, I didn't get to honor you when you were alive, so I'm going to do it in your remembrance. But whether you were the best child to your parent or you were the worst, you still can honor someone else in memory. As I do with my mother, I just find somebody and say, okay, I'm going to bless this person. If I get to the point where, like, I miss my mama. If I can't find an auntie or a cousin or a relative or a niece or a nephew or somebody to bless, I just, Lord, who can I help? Who can I bless? Who can I show some kindness to? And go from that perspective. And so for me, it often takes me back to what David said when he became king. Once the battling, the fighting was over, the wars were won, the kingdom had some peace, he was in his house, and David was trying to build God a house, and all these things is in his heart. And God's like, you can't build me a house, you build your own house, and this and the third. And then one day he's sitting on the throne, he's like, he gets bothered. To me, it's like he got bothered. He's like, I'm here. God, you will perform over your word. When I was a teenager, you had Samuel come and put the oil on my head, and you anointed me to be the next king. And then here I am thinking it's going to be this, and I killed Goliath and the lion and the bear. Then I met Jonathan and the family, and I was married, and King Saul and my father-in-law and this and the third. Then all of a sudden, now you want to kill me. I'm running from my life, and I had to sit there and act crazy and foam at the mouth and spit all kind of stuff to get from the hands of the enemy, the Philistines. And then I remember Ziklag. Man, y'all remember Ziklag? I think, like, to me, it's like he's going through, like, man, I remember Ziklag, and we went to war, and when we couldn't fight, couldn't get no money, we didn't get paid for the job, and we're going home kind of despondent. And also we see the smoke, and all our loved ones and our stuff is gone. And then we cried so bad, like we had no more tears to cry. It's just the air coming out my eyes. And then next thing I know, all of y'all turned on me. Y'all remember that? Yeah, we remember that. Y'all trying to kill me. But I encouraged up the Lord. The Lord gave us all of that. And then he goes, Jonathan, is there nobody from the house of Saul, the house of Jonathan, I can show kindness to? The promise, that the oath that he had, the love he had for Jonathan was like, I got to bless somebody.
Got to.
And that's where God began to talk to me about, there are times when you start to miss your loved one or someone who meant a great deal to you. It's like when you get that, it's like, man, I wish they could be here to see me now. It's like, take that emotion, take that energy, and go pour that lovingly into somebody else. Go pour and give it to somebody else of kindness. Show some kindness. Show some gratitude. We call them arts, acts of random kindness to others. But you got to make it a point not to sit and stew in your missing, your misery, your misfortune, or your happiness and your joy. Take all of that and pour it into someone else. Pour my misery into somebody else? No. What would you have done for your loved one? You know, because like for me, I wasn't at the financial stature that I am now. Not that we're so wonderfully well off. You know, we're millionaire thousandaires, but back then I was a thousandaire. So the plan was that summer, take my mother on vacation. She passed away in February. We were going to take her on a summer vacation. I had never taken my mom on a summer vacation. I took a bunch of other people, but never had a chance to take her. So for me, it becomes, okay, so now I got to make sure I do some stuff. So I don't sit there and say, man, God, why you took it before I could do this? God's like, that's above your pay grade. Maybe God will talk to y'all like he talked to me sometimes. Like, that's above your pay grade. But you got all the important stuff. Remember what you got. It's like, remember what she taught you. And every once in a while, it comes back. Especially when I'm dealing with Monet now. It's like, remember what she taught you. Remember how she taught you. Remember what she trained you to do. It's like, you got to get her into a structure, into a routine, because that's going to benefit her in the long run. It is the wisdom of it. But more than anything else, is how you live in front of your daughter. How you live in front of your children, that matters the most. Your mother lived a certain way in front of you, and you take those things and you apply them. It is an amazing thing. When you look at what happened with David and Mephibosheth, we get to all that fun stuff. You know, how Mephibosheth was the weak and he was paralyzed and he couldn't do for himself and this and the thing, but he comes from royalty. And David goes, Mephibosheth will be as one of mine, sit at my table. To me, one of the main characters in that story, and I'm just kind of just going through and telling it, I forget what chapter of scripture it is, but y'all can Google it. Is the one that was over Mephibosheth's stuff. And he kept up with the stuff. Him and his sons prospered. Zebah, some say Zebah. He prospered on somebody else's stuff. It was King Saul's stuff. It was Mephibosheth's stuff by right. Mephibosheth was basically living in the ghetto, in the slums, in the hood, in the projects, in somebody's house that he didn't even know he had a room. And somebody was kind of caring for him, helping him out. And he was kind of hiding for his life because he was the last one of the line. And here is Zibble, however y'all say his name. He's taking care of the vineyard that belonged to Mephibosheth and prospering, and him and his sons are growing up doing well. And he's not even caring for the person that it owns, that it belongs to. Which reminds me of how the enemy will do. This is how the enemy will do. It will be your stuff. But yet he will prosper over your stuff and let you sit there in the hood.
Wow.
Not that there's anything wrong with the hood. I'm a little hood myself. I grew up in the hood. But you understand what I'm saying. No one by choice, not many, wants to live in the hood in the horrible conditions of the hood. Now, it's one thing if you got the nice house and you live in the hood and you're making a difference. But it's very different when it's something else going on and you're in lack. And when it rains outside, it rains inside. Maybe y'all ain't never experienced that. When it's cold outside, it's cold inside. When the wind blows outside, the wind is blowing inside. That's not good conditions.
I never lived like that.
Well, thank God for that. Yeah, thank God you've never had to. Right.
Like
so some of my testimony is there were times as kids growing up that there was no more. That's one of those horrible winters. Incredibly cold winters. See, when you are not poor, the winters don't seem quite as harsh.
Cold, yeah.
They ain't quite as cold. The summer's not quite as hot. But when you grow up in the hood, like I did, the winters are incredibly cold. They're incredibly harsh. You thank God for a season where it wasn't really that cold this winter. It didn't snow. It didn't ice over this winter. The ground didn't ice up this winter. I remember walking to school and it was so cold that when you hit the ground, you could hear the crunching of the grass, and then you look back and your feet are frozen. You got on 2 pair of socks. in Hopkins, South Carolina, 2 pair of socks, walking to school because the buses weren't coming in there because I was so close to the school. We had to walk. Either you walk or your parents drove you. And pray to God that one of your neighbors who was driving their kid to school saw you and come on, get in real quick, because that walk to school was no joke. Y'all have no idea. But when the winters are cold and you run out of firewood, and so you take old shoes and you burn old shoes in the fireplace. Y'all don't know nothing about that. You're burning old shoes from back in the day and some old clothes so you can get through just to keep you a little safe. Or my favorite, I go to my uncle's house up the street and ask, can we get a couple of armfuls of wood to put in the fire to kind of knock the air off the house. It's stuff you do when you know, because it's cold outside, it's cold inside. These makeshift houses with no insulation. Oh, y'all know about that. So my point goes to, that's how Mephibosheth was living. But he's royalty. He's supposed to be honored. He's supposed to be provided for. And so now he is in a place where he is lacking and someone else is prospering off his property. So then David says, is there, and it stirs David's heart, is there no one that I can show kindness to? And in the midst of this, what ends up happening is somebody says, now watch this. Somebody goes, well, there is one left of Mephibosheth. David goes and calls for Ziba and says, ain't nobody left from the house of Saul. Well, there is, one Mephibosheth, but he living down in Lodebar. So Ziba knows where Mephibosheth is. Ziba knows that all the stuff that he's been taking care of all these years is Mephibosheth's profit. So he's been taking his money, taking his profit, tilling his land. Him and his boys have gotten fat and big. And David goes and says, okay, well, go get him. And so the thought process is, the king has summoned the last remaining descendant of Jonathan and of Saul. Direct line descendant. Oh, he gonna kill him. So here comes Mephibosheth going, when he gets before David, he's like, oh, king, live forever. Why is it that my Lord calls me, such as a dead dog, to come before the king? Because he's like, let me humble myself, because, he take me out, I'm done. This is David that's killed the lion and the bear and the giant Goliath, and he done slain the Philistine, killing his hundreds of tens of thousands. I don't want no parts of this. And David's like, Ziba, come here. And he makes Ziba, says, I'm restoring back all the land of Saul and Jonathan to Mephibosheth. You are going to oversee to make sure that all his money and his stuff get to him. Mephibosheth is going to eat with me every day, live in my castle like one of my sons. When I put, and this is me adding a little bit into the story. When we look at the books, if his money ain't right, that's your head. David not only pulls him out, but he does a thing that Mephibosheth becomes instantly wealthy again. He gets his inheritance. Here's the thing we got to understand. In Saul's family line, y'all remember when David's son Absalom was chasing him and, trying to take over the kingdom? And remember how as David was running, well, we say running for his life, but really, David's the king and his son is coming at him who grew up in royalty. He grew up in wealth. He ain't about that life. It's like your daddy grew up in the hood or in the rough streets, and then here come you acting like you your suburbs, you a suburbs hood. Like, that's not the same thing. Right. Ain't the same thing. So here comes Absalom, Absalom. He's coming to try to take over the David's kingdom. Well, David just says, okay, maybe this is what the Lord's will, and David just leaves. He doesn't fight his son, he just leaves. And as he's going, the relatives of Saul and people who were for King Saul began to mock David and say, because you stole the kingdom from Saul, this is why this is happening to you. Because we got to understand, this is a long way to get to. You can't always go by the story that's told you of your relatives about how stuff happened. Because King Saul's relatives believed that it was David that killed Saul. They believed that it was David that stole the kingdom from Saul, not that Saul lost it on his own. Because one thing God did not do is expose or publicize the judgment he put on King Saul. He just let it happen. He said, you ain't got the kingdom no more. And Samuel tells Saul this. So only two people really knew this, Saul and Samuel. It was not published to anyone else publicly that this is what had happened. It gets recorded later because I believe Samuel went and wrote some things down saying this is what happened. This is the real story. So we have it for an example. But I need y'all to understand it wasn't publicly told. Because remember, when King Saul was in the battle, he told his servant, kill me. Because don't let the enemy kill me, you kill me. The servant says, I can't do it. King Saul falls on the sword, falls on his own sword. Then the servant kills himself too. And then when the enemies came over, King Saul was already dead. Then when the battle was over and David came around, someone said, oh, I can get favor with David. I'm going to tell him I'll kill King Saul. And when he told David he killed King Saul, David had him killed. Like, how dare you touch the Lord's anointed? My point goes to, as this remembering of mother saying, this is go to some of the people who are upset with their mama or their mama them and grandmama them and this and the third. You have to be careful of how this story is being told to you about what happened. Because you could have the wrong side, the wrong perspective of the story. Because to that day, as David was running for his life, and there was many years down had passed, David's going for his life, fleeing from the throne, and there are people who are mocking him, bringing up King Saul. They had the story wrong. David did no harm to King Saul. It was King Saul's fault, but because we have the wrong story, when celebration and when it's time to honor people, when it's time to show kindness to people, we decide we're not going to do it because you don't know what they did to me, and not realizing that there's a thing in Scripture called honor. And you give honor to a person not because of how good they've been to you, but because of the position they hold in your life oftentimes. So therefore, this is why Scripture goes and says, honor your father and your mother. It does say honor, right? We want to make sure we know the word. Okay, when the word. It says, honor thy father and thy mother, that your days may be long upon the earth. It didn't say, honor thy father and thy mother that was good to you. It didn't say, honor thy father and thy mother that treated you kind and gave you everything you ever wanted. Wow. It just says, honor your father and your mother. So how will you be able to show kindness and honor to your father and your mother? Because, as I tell my students, unless you were a science experiment, you don't get here without a mama and a dad. And even if you are a science experiment, that the ingredients that made you, if you are a person living on the earth with a soul, now if you're a clone or some type of AI thing, that's a whole different story. But if you are a person in the earth that came from a man and a woman, be it through them going out on a date, them having a moment, or them, combining and doing something in the science experiment, you don't get here without a mom and a dad. So if you can show kindness to them, show kindness to them. And if they have gone on, then maybe show kindness to their sibling, like a brother or a sister that they had, or whatever the case is. You show kindness because that is a way to let your life be long upon the earth, and God will bless you and favor you because you are showing kindness and honoring somebody else. I'm doing a whole lot of talking. Y'all come in when y'all get ready to come in.
Let me so what you're talking about. My mother died when I was 1 year old, so I never knew her. Okay, so my daddy remarried, and he remarried a woman that, how could I describe her? Like all the cartoons of the wicked stepmother, anything you could think of, it was like that. Yeah. But all the times, but I never said anything wrong to her. I never said anything, called out a name or even bucked up or did anything, the whole time that, she was alive. But on her deathbed, while we were around her deathbed, she apologized. She apologized. She said how sorry she was. We prayed for her, we did all that. And I remember how she even ignored her own sons because I was in the room. She wouldn't talk to them. She only looked at me, stared at me. Even after we finished talking, she just kept looking at me. And that's how it was. And I remember what you said about, asking God, I said, why? let you take mama.
Mm.
But then, when I married my wife, I ended up getting 2 mothers. Because her father had previously, got married before. And they're, good people. I get to love on them, they love on me. And so all that stuff I guess I went through, God just turned it around.
Yeah, he has a way of paying you back. I call it payback. Because like for Monet, I was like, God, why this way with her? And one thing he shared with me was, he's like, you have to understand the way you're made and the way your heart is towards people. And he's like, a lot of how you are, you got from your mother. And I went, huh? He's like, because your mother would adopt anybody.
That's right.
And I was like, yeah, she did. There are people who I know who are in my life now only because of my mother, just connecting with them in whatever case it is. Nicole is actually one of them. I met Nicole through my mama.
Yeah.
Laying through my mama. When they became friends, I was like, oh Lord. But there were just people that I met through my mother who I'm in contact with to this day, because she would just bring in anyone. And she's like, you have the same kind of heart that you will take care of, you will love someone. And he's like, when you are able to do that, you have a special place. And he started talking about some other things in concerning Monet. But he often says, I always level out the books in the end. He always gets back in the end. And so you have to also understand, he's like, plus you got to understand, son, that people's life just goes a certain way. And God's like, not that, that's all right. That's all right. I'll get into Monet later. And it's not that everybody, every person passing is the Lord's doing. But God goes, I give a way of escape for every person. And he's like, the best scenario, if for many people sometimes, is to go at this time. And I'm like, that's a hard thing, because you can turn and do whatever. He's like, no, but you got to understand. Sometimes the best thing, like when God looks at the scope of life from beginning to end and goes, yeah, the best time to get you is right here. And sometimes that's a hard thing to swallow, because I'm like, that ain't right. Like, for example, I go, why would you go to Cain at the end after he's done what he's done to Abel and go, where is Abel? Didn't you see what was going to get? And like, you told him from the beginning, this is in your heart. Sin lies at the door. You could have stopped this. And it's like, huh? He's like, some things I give people free will and choice. It's like, you have to understand that it's not always fair. It's like, life is not meant to be fair. It's not. And it's something that I've had to tell my students, like, well, Ms. Gibson, that ain't fair. I was like, favor is not fair. Grace is not fair. And life is definitely not fair. You need to be able to navigate life. And you have to sometimes see someone getting something and being blessed, and that ain't you. Well, why'd you be nice to this one, not nice to me? Sometimes it's based on how they treated others, what good seeds they sown, and how they have interacted with me. And sometimes it's just that in the moment, there's a point of compassion that comes up for me, and I go, I'm going to show kindness to you right now, and just do this. Well, you ain't do that for us. No, I didn't. And it just is what it is. Sometimes with our God, that is exactly what happens. There are moments where he goes, I'm going to show kindness to you. And Jesus made the statement where he said, how many lepers were there in Israel during the time of the prophet Elijah? How many got healed of their leprosy? One. And he wasn't even an Israelite. Jesus brought that up. And he goes like, well, wait a minute, now this ain't right, because they got the covenant, they got the this and the that. And sometimes God goes, if there is an accident, if two cars are riding down the road, one car has insurance, the other car doesn't have insurance, which one would you rather have the accident? The one that has the insurance or the one that doesn't?
Wow.
Which one?
Right. The one with the insurance, of course.
Right, because when the insurance, it's got coverage. Well, what is your salvation and walk with the Lord? It's nothing more than a big life insurance policy. That if something happens, God says you can come with me and be safe. So as much as we love our loved ones, and this is me holding back tears as I say this, as much as we love our loved ones, nobody loves them more than God. Our love for our loved one pales in comparison. And I keep having to remind myself, what kind of love is this that God gives us, that when you get out of this earth suit and be in his presence, you ain't trying to come back here. As much as we like, earth is wonderful and I don't want to go, we fight to stay. Truth be told, if you can kind of peel this off for a minute and see what soul and spirit is really like outside of flesh and being the love of God, you ain't trying to come back here. We don't, hey people in Facebook world, we don't preach this to you or teach this to you because we talk about getting your stuff and your material stuff all the time and living your best life. But truth be told, the love of God is so engulfing. It is so awesome, doesn't do it justice. So imagine you will go and be in the presence of God and have all this emotional expression. And that's in your flesh. And our flesh can only take so much of the presence of God, because what happens? After a while, we fall asleep in his presence. Some people call it being slain in the spirit. To me, I've been in worship. I'm going to worship God all day. And I'm worshiping. All of a sudden, I get a little tired, or it gets overwhelming. And I fall on my face. And before I know it, I'm asleep. He's talking to me. We're interacting, fellowshipping. Your flesh can only take so much of God's glory. Maybe y'all ain't never worshiped like that. Like, I'm going to just worship God all day and have one of the best naps that I could ever have. After about a good 35, 40 minutes of just worshiping and crying and snotting and being in his presence, and Lord, I love you, and not caring who's hearing you. If the mailman pull up to your yard or your house or whatever, they like, boy, they really going in, because I'm in the house and it's on. And next thing you know, I'm on the floor laying prostrate, and next thing you know, it's an hour later after I kind of remember, like, wait, I gotta get up. I was like, get on up, because your body can only take so much of the activity. So, and that's not even including reading the word. So I hope we can understand the awesomeness of our God. And if you don't believe me, go and read the Old Testament, New Testament scriptures. Anytime God was revealing himself in his fullness to a person, they passed out. I jokingly say, when John got to Jesus in the book of Revelation, he was in the spirit on the Lord's day. He says, and I saw the Lord. I jokingly go, Jesus' clothes is so sharp and so cold that John goes, he was in white and his shoes were like brass dipped in the fire. He's like, when I saw the shoes, I passed out. I'm like, what kind of shoes is this guy wearing? Like, I want some shoes like that. But his presence is so overwhelming, you fall out. Daniel had the same experience when the Lord came before him. He was like, I was done. I fell to my face, and he touched me and said, fear not, rise up. There is a awesome fear that hits you when God begins to manifest himself to you. Look at the book of Exodus when God is coming down the mountain. Whole mountain's on fire. And everybody's going, they're fearful, they're quaking. And the leaders of Israel said, come here, Moses. We don't want this. This is too great for us. We can't take this. You go talk to God on top of the mountain. You come down and tell us what he said, we'll do it. They were dressed in their Sunday's best. They had fasted and consecrated themselves in 2 or 3 days. They were wearing their best of best, and they were to appear before the mountain of God. And when they got there, the thunder and the light, first of all, the mountain's on fire. There's thunder and lightning all around, and it's like darkness and clouds and thunder and all this. The sight of it by itself is like, oh, this is scary. If you've ever been, again, growing up in the hood, being poor, growing up in the real thunderstorm, when the hurricane's coming, you ever go outside? Or go to the door and look and kind of see what's going on?
Yeah, we did.
When as kids, kind of sneak to the door and like, what's going on out here? Or, like, oh, well, it's the rain now and the hurricane is on the way, and me and my crazy butt go outside and look around. And like, nah, this ain't much of nothing there. Boom, boom, boom. Oh, okay, let me go in the house. Because that thunder lightning hits and it shakes you. You're like, oh, I felt that one in my core, like, ooh, I felt that one in my spirit. That's not what you want. So all that is happening, and it's 10 times worse, or at least I call it 10 times worse, with God coming on the mountain, and they're like, nah, I don't think I want God dwelling in the midst of me. Not like this. I don't want this. Moses, go talk. You do what you do. You go and talk to him. Since y'all boys like that, you go talk to him.
Since he chose you to
Yeah. Since you the leader, we'll do whatever you say. If he gonna act like this, that's all right. That's all right. I don't want it. I don't want it. Got us out here to kill us in the wilderness. And their thought process about God was really off. Go back and look at. They didn't want the kind of covenant that God had with Abraham. They wanted this covenant of, if we do good, God, you be good. And that's where the laws come from. So I hope we understand this, that on this day of celebration, you love on your people. And this is really not the most loving, like, thank God for your mamas and celebrate whatever, but I'm trying to get you to understand. And maybe it's for somebody out there who is at odds with their parent. Your parent is still alive. You got issues with them because of this and that and the third. And I am at this place where one of the things that I tell my students, and I keep begging them to do, is like, do you know your parents' story? What's their story? Because to understand them and why they are as crazy as they are, why they do what they do, why they say what they say, why are they on you the way they're on you, or why they value certain things the way they value or don't value other things, you got to know their story. And here's the biggest part of that. Knowing their story is incredibly helpful once they're gone. Because you get the questions answered.
Even before they're gone, because when sometimes when mothers and daughters are at odds with one another, the daughters really don't understand why mama trying to keep your life whole and trying to keep you together. And it's like, okay, things have happened in life to mama, and mama just don't want their children to go through that same cycle. You know, if you have children and you know you're a mother and you've had multiple children and you have daughters that don't have multiple children, you feel like, oh, I've won the victory because I was the one that had a bunch of kids. But look at my children; they're growing up and they're being, they're doing everything in their early 20s and 30s that I didn't do because I had them. Now that now y'all getting in y'all 30s, I'm ready for some grandbabies now. I'm ready for some grandbabies. I'm ready for life to be really good with my grandchildren, because I thank God for y'all raising up and being the light. You getting beyond where I was. So I'm grateful for that. But I thank God because I saw all the strong women in my life. All my grandmamas, I never seen them to be weak women. All my grandmas were like, they made sure their family was together. They made sure you knew how to clean. Oh my God. We had to clean up on Saturdays. You got that whole thing where you got to break the house down and clean up and do all that stuff. On Saturdays. But I work on Saturdays now, so I don't have this good Where's all this good I don't have to do that no more. I don't have to do that no more. So thank God.
That you got, like, you ain't putting none of that good training.
No, I'm done.
We gotta talk. No, we gotta have a conversation.
Done.
We gotta talk, sister.
I'm done.
This is ridiculous.
I'm
You
done.
got to take off on Saturday.
Exactly.
No.
I'll take it on the Monday. It don't gotta be a Saturday. It can be a Sunday. It can be a Monday. It can be a Thursday. I don't care.
I need to see this.
Yeah, I need to experience this.
And they cooked all the time, and they washed clothes. They were homemakers.
They was homemakers.
They was homemakers.
Yeah.
But that made me make the decision too. I don't want to be a homemaker. I don't want to clean all the time and cook all the time, and that's not me, man. Sorry to tell you that, but I'm grateful for the things, and I always saw my grandmothers. I don't know why they always had money, but my grandmas always had money. No, they had money. I say money. My dad, mom. She had a shoe rack. She had a shoe. Remember when they used to have the shoe bags? They used to hang on the back of your door. And we knew where the 50s, the 100s, and 20s, and the ones, and the quarters, and the nickels, and the dimes were. So we knew how to go in there and get us some change to go to Mr. Christmas store and get us some candy. And I was like, Lord, and grandma be like, where y'all got that money from? Grandma, we was in your room and we picked up that money out that bag. She said, y'all stay in my room, get my money. We knew not to get the big bills, we knew to grab the change. Yeah, we knew to grab the change, but it was so funny because I was like, Grandma, where you get all this money from? And always, and every time we go to the store, tell me she ain't had no money.
That was it.
But then if it came down to buying food to fix for the preacher, she could pull out them 50s and 100s because she was going to make sure she brought a $20, $30 ham for the preacher.
And they was pretty.
Yes.
They wasn't wrinkled.
And make us eat a $10 ham. And then my mama's mama, she kept money everywhere. She always had money. Every time we took her someplace, she always had money. My mama always had money. I'd be like, I ain't like that. I'm like, I must be like my dad.
Yes. Always spend it. Yes. Yes. We'll grab it and spend it.
Yes. All the time.
Spend it.
I distinctly remember my grandmama telling me, and I don't know if she knew she was gonna die, but my grandma told me, she said, if anything ever happened to me, you bet you or your granddaddy better not put my purse down.
Yep.
Grandmama died. Granddaddy held on to that purse to me into the house.
He still got that purse at the house.
The funny thing about that purse was, I remember asking my grandmama one day, I was about 17, I asked my grandma, I said, Grandma, I need a certain amount of money. She said, okay, you can have it. She said, but don't ask for it. I'm going to give it to you, but don't ask for no more. So I asked my grandma for $200. My grandma went to the top of her wallet and pulled out 17 $100 bills. She gave me the two I asked for, the third. She said, don't come back. She said, I gave you more than what you asked for. She said, don't come back. Don't come back and ask for no more now. She said, you got $300. You messed that up. You're your own.
See, those ain't my testimonies. It seemed like my mama, she never had any money.
Your mama gave you all her money.
No.
Grandma Jackie would do.
No, she had money, but it seemed like she never had money.
That's why I
want to know whether I don't have any, and you got a brand new TV. You just said you didn't have.
She didn't have the money.
I don't have no money.
She didn't have the money.
How you doing? Y'all come on in. Like, I don't have no money for that. And then I learned her phrasing. I don't got no money for that. Mom, can I get $10 to go to the game? I ain't got no money for that.
For that.
Oh, so you got money, just not for that. Okay.
In a brand new bedroom set. And I'm like, but I asked for a mic. I ain't got no money.
I ain't got no money for that. I ain't got no money for that.
But you just bought a whole bedroom set.
Yeah.
A whole set. And you tell me you don't have any? No.
Yeah.
No.
I ain't got no money for that. Like,
That was their famous word.
Okay.
And they go into this little pocket.
You know the biggest mess we used to have my dad to the doctor. He had to drop out Kentucky Fried. My mama ain't there always my dad and my daddy money. Why you can't get them chicken? And it is money. He want chicken every time he go by, he come to the doctor, he want chicken. My mama always like, you can't offer the man by their own money.
Yes, they can.
Yes,
they can. Yes, they can.
And then when my father died, the funeral cost $1,700. My mama had every penny of it.
That's right.
I said, I never had the penny off $1,700 and give to the funeral man.
I told you she had it in that shoe.
She had
She
money.
had them 50s, 100s, and 20s in
They
there.
kept money in all kind of places, and that's one of the things that why sometimes they hated for a house to burn down. Because when the house burned down, all their money and their valuables is in that house.
I know my great grandmother kept everything under the floorboard.
Oh, wow.
And I think me and my mama were the only people she told, because she thought everybody else was trying to take her money. So we was the only one who knew. So when she passed, this is 1985, she passed. Christmas morning, we found her. And I just remember what she said. If something happened, that's all. They'll get up under the floorboard. And there was no end to the money, but her insurance policy, everything was in the strong box. I followed it out, and I went and took it, and I handed it to my mom. And I said, she said, this all for you. And you take care of her business. And my mom said, all for me. She said, it's all for you. And you take care of her business. And that's where this come from. We cooking and bringing food over here and say she ain't got no food in the house. Well, loaded down.
Yeah.
Well, someone needs to teach this to the young people. I don't care how much money they make. They ain't got something to say but dime. Buy all kind of foolish things what they really don't need. I don't tell you don't buy you some dresses. I don't tell you spend all your money on for dressing and shoes.
Right, but again, that kind of goes to why I say you got to find out your parents' story, because sometimes when, like in your case, your grandmother was, always, she said she ain't had no money. She said she didn't got this. We grew up, they never gave us this. I never got the new pair of Jordans. I could never get this and get this. And then sometimes as children, we determine when I get older and I have my kids gonna wear the best. My kid's gonna do this. My kid's gonna do that. And then you work so hard to give it to them, and then they become the label whores. And then now when they have kids, they've not learned the value of holding $1 to go from having labels to owning assets. Because most of our grandparents, great-grandparents, they owned a house. If they didn't do anything else, they paid their house off. They might not have kept insurance on it, but they paid the house off, and they owned the house. Because their thing was, and you got to go back to, and this is why I go with history, you got to remember, in this nation's earliest inception and creation and birthing, land was money and power. You own land, you got power. You own land, you got money. And that's how they thought. That was passed down to them, is that, baby, you can't be in this world renting all your life. You gotta own something. You gotta have. So for us, growing up, that's what the thing was. It was only until this year that my uncle told me, and it was when my aunt Beverly passed away, and we were talking about family stuff. You gotta know the family history. And he gave me some new information. He said, your granddaddy used to own a bunch of property, 40-something acres, all Bluff Road. And I went, well, what happened to it?
Right.
And he's like, they don't know. Because I asked, why did granddaddy drink the way he drank? Like, no one knows. No one knows what caused this man to come from the war, get a job at Fort Jackson, be working, but then when he get paid, he go drink. And he would drink and spend all his money.
I can tell you.
And my grandmother ended up leaving him because we used to live off of Lower Richland. They used to live off Lower Richland Boulevard by Hopkins Park. She moves to off American Avenue, and he moves across the street from her. And so when I come along, by the time I come along, he's living across the street from my grandmother with his girlfriend, and they were alcoholics. Call them winos back in the day. Y'all know about winos. They were Tamino winos. But you couldn't say nothing bad about my granddad because I'll fight you. To this day, I'll fight you. So, but what I saw was granddad lived across the street with his girlfriend, and my grandmother lived on this side of the street. And I was like, what? And I was like, you know how kids like, something about this ain't quite right. So I thought, oh, Gail going to school. Grandma and granddaddy got divorced. No, they didn't.
Never.
They never got a divorce. And apparently, what my uncle said, granddaddy, every time he got his check, he will go across the street and give money to my grandmother.
Wow.
What he didn't do when they were first married or whatever, caused her to leave him, in his older age, he took care of his wife. That's dysfunctional on a whole nother level. But when I asked what caused him to lose his land, they don't know. He never told anybody. So what did I see happen? Wait a minute, that's why so-and-so lost their land. That's why so-and-so ended up losing land. It's something that, okay, this is third generation now, and this is still happening. We got to break this. And that's why I'm saying it's always good to know the history. So when you see a pattern continuing, you know how to break some stuff. Doesn't mean your grandparents, your parents, or whoever are horrible people. It just means that something happened to them. And this started a chain cycle. And it's been going and going. We can do something to break this. And if you can't break it, you tell the story to your children and your next generations so they can break it. So they have an understanding. You know, if I'm not careful and not handle my business right, I could lose land. I could lose assets. It's great to have stuff. As y'all see, I have on a Samsung watch. I got a Samsung this, a Samsung that. I got on a Nautica. This is, what am I paying for these? These are Vineyard pants on with some Sperry shoes. So I am not anti-label stuff. Also though, this is stuff like I don't say it, but that's the point. I'm not anti having nice things. What I'm saying though is, as much things as we have, we try to teach our children and our next generation have assets.
Yeah.
You know, like Shell, like when we first got married, we went to a trip to Charlotte, and we were in Kate Spade store, and she was like, I like that pocketbook. I was like, get the pocketbook. It was a couple $100. And she went, if I'm gonna get the pocketbook, I want to keep the money in the pocketbook. So I'm looking at her like, get the pocketbook. Because the challenge for me was, you get the pocketbook, you get the pocketbook, I'll make sure you keep the money in the pocketbook. That was my challenge. And she wouldn't buy it. And I was like, you know what, God? I was like, never again. I was like, never again. We're going to be in the store. And she's going to feel like it's the cost of it that's going to be the reason why she don't get it. And that's not to say label stuff, but it's a mindset. Value your assets. Make it certain that I am going to have such assets in my life that my wife, if she chooses to look at price of stuff, that's because she's cheap and this is what it is. And sometimes you can't get people above their raise, and if she cheap, then she cheap. It just is what it is. But it's not gonna be because you can't afford to get it, because, oh my goodness, because we have the assets and the true lifestyle to back up the amount of cost of something that you're wearing. And that becomes the thing that you teach your children. My mother taught me that. She was like, you got to make sure that you are actually living with the way you advertise. And I went, what? It took me years to figure out what she was talking about. You got to actually have what you advertise, baby. What? I got to actually have what I advertise. And what am I advertising? She's like, you can't just act like you got it going on. You got to actually have it. Because there's nothing worse than you get with somebody and you thought they were one thing, and you come to find out,
broker than a joke.
They ain't nothing like what they said.
Broker than a joke.
And that becomes an issue.
Tell a joke.
Right, yeah. So,
a lot of people like that.
You can't afford it.
Right, can't afford it. But they pretending like they got it.
Yeah.
They act like they balling. You want to be a big baller, shot caller, and all that stuff. No, you don't got it. You ain't rolling like that.
No. And that's why I advocate for when your children become teenagers, you start letting them handle money, and you teach them how to handle their money, not just because you got a pocket full of money, just spending on the stuff that you want. Learn to save a little, invest a little. And you know, when my son and my niece, when they turned 13 or 15, I think I took y'all to the bank. And I opened you 15, and I opened y'all an account. And I can say Kristen kept her account good. Darius was the boy. He just messed up. But you have to mess up sometimes in order to learn how to get on the right track. One thing I can say, Kristen never, if she messed up, she never had to come to me and tell me, Auntie, I messed up. Or they never debited my account because of her mistake. But the thing is that when you take your money and you do the right thing with it, I can say all the people that I had a hand in helping grow up and become great adults, all y'all make me so proud. Y'all don't understand, because I know what all we've been through to take care of y'all and be with y'all, and to see how beautiful y'all have turned out.
The Christmases,
Yeah.
Back to school stuff.
Mm-hmm.
The
going on
summertime
vacation. You know, I enjoyed those times when we all were able to go on vacation and then how we all were able to, when we would do the little fish fries to make sure y'all could go out to get a big meal and eat whatever y'all wanted to eat. We was able to do that. And you know, how can you roll 15 deep? Ooh. And that it was always we rolled 15 deep
most days.
And it was like we went places. We went to St. Augustine. We never even I ain't never even heard of that place before. We went and enjoyed ourselves, and nobody ever complained about y'all ain't got no money. You can't do this. You can't do that. Whatever y'all want, you can have. Whatever y'all need, if I got it within my ability to give it to you, I will always give it to you. And that is the greatest gift that you can give your family, is that you have a legacy, that you have memories. And we made great memories because we was able to do these things, and my mom was still alive. And my sister was still alive. So, you know, my mama was going to talk trash. My sister was going to talk trash. We always had something to laugh about. So I'm grateful to be able to give y'all something. When my mom and dad, when we were little, they always took us places. We had a vacation all the time. You know, my mom always be talking about, I ain't got no money. And we look in her pocketbook and she got thousands of dollars in her pocketbook. And Mama, you said you ain't had no money. She said, I didn't have money for you. I had money for me. So, and then if she saw you and she loved you, she always would buy the children extra, especially that Jasmine. Ooh, she loved that Jasmine. Jasmine would cry about the Barbies, and my mom would go buy her 4 or 5 Barbies. But her favorite was always Dorian.
Not Dorian.
Dorian. Had Dorian about to get beat up in his church because Dorian was chewing gum and eating peppermint candies and baby crying, tears coming out of her eyes. Yeah, she burning, and I'm like, baby, take that out your mouth. But we were grateful for the opportunities that we got to be with family and to love on one another. And like I say, I'm so proud of all y'all because y'all are great, productive citizens. I don't think any of y'all went to jail.
Not that we know of.
Other than the business,
See, that's a great testimony right there. We ain't never had to go to jail or go pick you up and say, you know.
That we know of.
Yeah.
We know of.
Yeah. And I love the fact that all y'all go on trips. Y'all do things for yourselves, and that y'all are the great adults. It just does my heart really good that this is what, you know.
So that your Mother's Day gift?
What?
To see them prosper?
Oh, definitely. That's the best gift ever, is that when you have a hand in somebody's life, and you know, if they have a single mama and your mama always gave up and still is giving up things for y'all.
You need to stop. Yeah, you need to stop.
And so,
That's gonna be a good try.
It's gonna be a good try.
But you're blessed. Y'all are blessed, and to still have our parents right now. We're blessed, and we miss our grandparents, and I sure enough miss my mom, but I don't want to be sad about it because I know she's no longer in pain. She's no longer sick and stuff like that. So I just want to bless y'all. And for the ones that I know it's fresh for you. It's fresh for you. It's an open wound right now. But in time, and I'm not saying that healing comes in time. It doesn't. You just learn how to get a new normal.
And I think for me it's a little different. Your healing does come.
It does.
But sometimes we equate healing to I won't cry anymore. I won't miss them. It'll just be like, life is wonderful. Like, no, life's going to be wonderful. You're going to heal, but you'll miss them. You'll think about them and you're like, you know, I wish I could talk with you. I wish I could do this with you, whatever the case is, like we used to. Those things only demonstrate the impact the person has had in your life. Like, they actually matter to you. You know, it's one thing when someone passes away and for a couple of days you might cry a little bit, then you forget about them, you don't remember them anymore, and you never miss. But when they mean what they mean to you, you miss them.
Yes, you do.
But the one thing that you take solace in is, and I'll go back to, is what did they teach you? What did they tell you? What were the instructions? And because it's when I have the instructions, when I got the instructions, I know what to do. If nothing else, I know what to do. And so those things are important and valuable. So while you're well, for those of us who are still here, we got our children, people around us, whatever, while you're well and everything is wonderful, you kind of tell them, hey, if something happened to me and I decide to go home in the rapture and y'all stuck here, or however you want to phrase it, do this and do this. I got this, I got this, I got that. I told Darius a long time ago, look, something happened to us, we go on a vacation and leave you and be gone. Something happened. This is what this is where this is. You call this person and you invest my money. Don't put no money in the ground. He has spending limits because I know him. He want to go all out and do something
I want
crazy.
to spend at least 10 on.
No. Do not put no money in the ground. Get me a pine box, put me in the backyard. I don't care where you put me. It doesn't matter to me. Because if you're going to show kindness to me, do it while I'm alive. Don't get before people talking about, oh, I miss him, I love him. Do that now. Do that now. Because once I'm gone, do not put, because this is what my mom told me, don't put no money in the ground. Because you're going to need that later. And if you got to grieve and whatever, take some money and go grieve in style. Go off an island somewhere and go grieve. And because it makes the grieving process a little bit easier, in my opinion.
I might cry a little bit at Bora Bora, but okay. Hold on.
See,
now.
there you go. You can't even spell Bora Bora. You talking about Bora Bora.
Okay, so can I make my presentation on YouTube on this?
Hold on, let's close.
I want to do it on TV, on the channel.
We on TV. We got
Come to you live from Columbia, South Carolina.
This is for you, Mom, from me and Monet.
I know this is gonna get stolen.
Yeah, it's gonna get stolen.
But we're thankful for you being our mother. I know we kind of get on your nerves sometimes to be your extra. And then all of your extra children, I know, especially the other two kind of on your nerves.
Sir. You're not.
I do not.
Okay. But we just want you to know that we appreciate you, we love you. I think the world loves you. I might not always.
You still think about it?
Yeah. I might not always show it, but I'm thankful for it. I'm thankful that you did not decide to. You could have decided to abort me. And all other kind of things. You could have decided to not raise me, all kind of things, but I'm grateful that you came through and you did what mothers do. And continue to do. And I'm really grateful that you all finally gave in to one of my requests. And y'all, we got both days.
Because I always was given to us by the Lord.
By the Lord. But seriously, y'all, no joke, I really did pray for her. Even though I had, now don't get that twisted, the 8 of y'all, the rest of y'all in the room. But I did pray for a sibling that came directly from, even though I know the way she got here was how she got here, that was raised.
A birth certificate.
Right. But that was raised in the.
Her birth certificate got our name on it.
Oh, yeah. Come on.
That was raised, in the house, and raised the same way, exactly how I was raised. And just to have that one sibling, because like I said, I do have a sibling line with all my first cousins. Yeah, let's get off there. Yeah. But I love all y'all. Yeah. That's it.
All right, so we're about to go ahead and fellowship and enjoy our Mother's Day. So you guys on Facebook World and TV Land, now you gotta be saying, y'all be blessed, go in God's blessing, His peace, His favor. Hopefully your Mother's Day is wonderful. And if you, again, go find someone to show kindness to, the Lord will bless you for it. You'll be the much better for it. So y'all go in God's peace and His blessings. And until next week, well, it's hard Tuesday of this week, y'all be blessed.